The gavel, sir.
Yes, okay.
Are we good? I guess we are. Let's call our meeting to order. At this time, looks like all 5 commissioners are present. Move forward with that. Item 2, invocation and pledge of allegiance. Coach, would you please lead us
Yes,
in
sir.
invocation? Thank you, sir.
Let's bow our heads once more. Gracious Father, once we come, Lord, thanking you for the many blessings, as I've always said. Thank you for watching over us, and pray, Lord, that you will guide this meeting. Bless each and every councilman that's here. Bless, Father, the administration. Bless the people of this parish. Bless those that are here tonight, Lord. We ask that you allow us to make it home safe and sound as we end this meeting. I ask that you allow this meeting to go as you would have it to go. I ask this in your name. God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. We all say amen.
Amen. To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, everybody, we do have a couple of chair additions this evening. If you take a look at our agenda for this evening, item 6G, the discussion of the use of tax dollars from the general fund to subsidize ACUD number 2 sewer customers and options to cure going forward. The parish attorney has had other items to take care of this evening, so he asked if we could pass for that to a later date, so we agreed to do so. And then item 6H, the approval of the proposed CEA dated September 3rd, 2020. We're going to be pulling that item from the agenda also. Word from administration and from our negotiations team is that negotiations are still going on with the current conversation between the parties. And so with that being the case, we've agreed to pull that matter from this agenda also. Everything else is still going forward. At this time, if there's anyone with a public comment, please come forth, grab a card, make your comments on any of the items that are remaining on the agenda, and we will take those as we move forward. Item 5, approval of the minutes. We have the utilities meeting minutes from our meeting August 31st, 2020. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Any objection? Motion passes. Items 6, general business. We have a director's report. I know I saw Mr. Ken Dawson present. He's going to be coming up and down a couple of times today. Mr. Dawson, good to see you.
Good to see you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, and to the Utility Committee. Just have something very briefly I want to share in the director's report. Our operators over there have to be qualified and take a barrage of testing and have to have experience to operate the water plant. They do things for, maintaining the system. They inspect equipment, they collect water samples, they document the test results to regulatory committees and that kind of thing. We just have a success. Devontae Martin has passed his level 3. And as you're aware, we talked about before, level 3 is required to really be able to operate the plant itself. It's required by LDH that you have at least a level 3 that would be present anytime that you're producing water, and you know that we're producing water 24/7. So I want to congratulate Devontae on that effort. He still has some more training to do, but he's done a great job at passing that test. So we're very proud of what he was able to achieve. And we're encouraging other operators to continue to take testing to improve their levels as they move forward.
Mr. Dawson, please
sir.
extend our congratulations to him as well.
Yes, sir. I will send an
Thank you.
email to him to that effect.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Another thing we're doing is that a lot of the meters that's in the actual PUA system, we're transferring those meters and moving them to Neptune meters. It give us a lot of accurate reads. It allows us to also to pull the data off electronically and also to compare some of the past readings that we initially had before. You know, one of the things that we talked about doing is seeing, you know, meters over a period of time start to underreport, you know, flow. So this will give us an opportunity to assess that and to move forward with some of the projects that we're looking at doing for the meters project with PUA. The goal is to increase the sampling point. We have about 17 to 20 in the system right now. We want to start to increase that, and we have some opportunities to do that, and we're looking at that particular process. So we're kind of excited about it. Another thing, instead of having manual reads, that's going to reduce that to electronic reads. So we're really excited about how we're improving those reads and the obtaining of data from PUA.
Mr. Thomas, do you have a
Yes.
question?
Yeah, Mr. Dawson.
Yes, sir.
Just so just so the public know, where are we with the meters, the piping and that's supposed to be changed out?
Well, that's how I was speaking about the meters. Now, those meters have been changed. So we're looking at the 17 meters right now. And we're talking about dealing with the actual grant application. We're going to talk a little bit about that, I guess, at that time.
Just out of curiosity, you said 17 meters. How many meters are we talking about in total that will
Well-
need to be replaced?
Well, all of those meters are Badger meters that we currently have in the system. We're replacing all those with Neptune meters because of the accuracy and to maintain consistency throughout our system. So I think that we probably have about 30 to 40, maybe Neptune meters in the system now. So we're going to have to change out, you know, a pretty considerable number to get us completely. Okay.
Is that number in the thousands?
Yes. We have 3,000 or so customers.
How far are you, as of right now, how far are you with the meters?
Well, meters
Could
we
you give an
have.
accurate report on how many of you have done already?
Well, yeah, like I say, we have 17 to 20 that we already have that we replace.
Okay.
Okay, and once what we're doing now, whenever a Badger meter fails, we replace it with a Neptune. That's the program now. But we are looking at a plan that we'll discuss on the other agenda item of how we move forward with replacing the meters.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. One other item, Mr. Chairman, if I may, WebTech is that's held yearly, and it basically deals with every aspect of water and wastewater. It deals with every aspect of water, wastewater equipment. It's attended not only from people in the United States, but also attended from the people worldwide. Of course, due to the COVID, the WebTech conference could not be held, physically, but virtually. Gavin Fleming did attend, the WebTech conference today, and reported of a lot of great information that he was able to gather. One was even testing of wastewater, for COVID. There was some discrepancy about how accurate that is, and I won't get into that tonight. But I just want to say that he is attending that conference. He is attending some classes for CEUs, and is doing a great job. And hopefully next year he will have a chance to attend it in person. So if there are any other questions, that ends my director's report.
No other questions, gentlemen? Thank you, Mr. Dawson. We appreciate your report.
Thank you.
Item B, approval of the amendment of ULDC Section 17-2043-B, standards of small wireless facilities in the rights-of-way in the parish of Ascension Parish Government. Over the last several months, we've worked on an amendment to Section 17-2043-B to address the installation of small wireless facilities throughout the parish's right-of-ways. I know Mr. O'Neill Parrington looked at it. We've had individuals from the administration review it. We've had it submitted to everyone for their review, and we're looking now for a motion to move this matter to a vote of the full council.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Turner,
Second.
second by Coach Thomas.
And I've got some
Any
discussion on
any
it.
discussion?
Yes, sir.
By all means, Mr. Robert, what do you have? And I'll go right to left this time for any discussion.
I believe the representatives are here this evening. If I may ask them to address the podium, Chair?
What do you?
The representatives for this wireless. Do we have anybody representing?
We had some parties that submitted a proposed ordinance, but they were not the ones who did the final draft of that ordinance. That went through legal after going through administration. I'm not sure what kind of questions
Okay,
you're
well, I
looking
guess
for.
what I'm getting at is I want to make sure that we have very specific criteria on all of these devices that we're talking about. If my assumption and the way I interpreted this is correct, these are the small towers, I guess you could say, to get better service, they say?
Correct.
I feel like this is something that is new, something that has started coming through the communities over the last several years. I remember seeing this the first time in Austin, Texas. And it was like a big hideous pole with green glittery like leaves in it. It's supposed to even look like a tree, but it was the worst looking tree I've ever seen in my life. Like it just looked bad. And these are the types of things that they were putting out there. Now I know it's developed. I know that it has moved and evolved, but there's a few things that I think we can ask for as a community, and that they shouldn't have a problem granting. And I mean, first thing is we should have like a 40-foot height minimum for these.
There are height minimums and height maximums, not minimums, but maximums.
I know, and when I'm looking at it, and when I spoke to them, I like the height minimum because it keeps these things out of the view of people. It keeps it out of sight of just normal line of view. It accomplishes the same thing as far as utility reasons for the towers, from what I understand. It would also address any possible health issues in the future by having these things too low. Also in the sense of obstructing different intersections, roadways, all that type of stuff. Secondly, I think we could use a lot of existing structures. We could have co-ops between the billboard companies, between current utilities companies, between, we could possibly look at water towers, utility towers, to put these, so we're not erecting more towers and waste and eyesores in the parish. And maybe say when we do decide, look, we need to have it installed, we need to have the criteria to where, look, it needs to be a metal pole, it needs to be 40 foot high. You have to add some improvement, like put a LED light on the top of it. So now we have some type of LED. It's an improvement to the environment where it's put in the pole. And just some things like that, I'd like to possibly add some stipulations on and spend a little more time here and see if any of y'all had some more of these types of recommendations and comments. I think ultimately we can achieve this, and I know it's the way we're going to have to go. And I know we have to accept this, and I'm good with it. But in the future, and I mean, we've had these conversations before, ultimately I'd like to see all utilities underground. Now, with some things I get it, we won't be able to do that, just for the sake of going through the parish and looking all around, and it's beautiful. You don't see power lines going over your head. You don't see power lines going over on the side of the road. So we could kind of plan the same way with things going up that have to be there, high enough to where it's out that side of view.
Okay. So are you can.
I would ask to make a motion to, bring this back to us, maybe give us some time to discuss some options. I'd love to have some input on it and give some more criteria on this, maybe move it to the next utilities meeting.
So is that
A motion
an
to move it to the
amendment?
next utilities meeting?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, there's a motion from Councilman Robert. Is there a second?
Let me just add, is there a deadline on this? And we do, I don't know if you've seen, we do have undergrounding requirements and design
No,
standards.
and I read a lot of it, and I saw a lot of it. And it's not that I'm saying I disagree with all of it, but when I read through it, there are a lot of them that, and I get where you're coming from with those, but I feel like there's a little bit more weighing into both sides of scenarios that maybe
Okay.
weren't attributed.
And listen,
And I'd love to be involved in it, and we can spend some time, I mean, whenever, to come.
did you have a chance to meet with the representatives when they first introduced?
I did, and that's
Okay.
the things that I explained to them and all things that they said. And I mean, I'm not saying, holding them to, oh, they said, so it's doable, but they seemed to act like it was doable, and some ideas they had actually already pursued in that sense, and other municipalities and so forth had asked them such things.
And have you reviewed this document to see if they satisfied those concerns? It
And
has not been?
that's what I saw, and I get it. I mean, they have several other people in the council to talk to, not just us. They want to talk to people in the council also. And everybody asks different things, and that's why I felt the point to want to invest a little bit more in utilities, because there's some things I specifically asked, like the height requirement, that I think we could probably put a little bit more thought into. Like the adding quality to where they are putting structures, maybe, I mean, an LED light these days, you could get a real deal, good LED light, 1,000-watt equivalent for like $300, you know, and put this 40-foot high, that could be great in communities. And it's little to nothing on the impact of what they will have on the environment. I don't think they'd have a problem putting a light up here and there, you know, some things like that.
And again, I don't think there's an issue with the lighting. I think the issue with the height is the serviceability.
And from what I
For the
understood
neighbors.
then, and I could be completely wrong, or they may have even told me, but I completely understood it as though it would not in any way, shape, or fashion hurt. It could almost even help because it's given more of a, like,
Okay.
broadcast area.
Do you think we could get this accomplished before the council meeting?
Absolutely.
So we can put this off?
Next week, I could, yeah, I could
So-
put some time away, beginning of the week or the end of
Okay,
this
well
week.
then, would you be okay with pulling back your motion, and let's just work together to have it a finalized?
I prefer
Clear
to
it
have
up.
something, yeah, I guess I would prefer to have something through us that gives and I'll do it, we could put it at the following council meeting. I'm not trying to hold it up for any reason at all. I'm just trying to, you know, put some finishing touches on it. I don't want to put a unrealistic, because even if I did put some time to it, we want to contact them, see what they think about it, because I don't want to ask them for things that aren't, like you're saying, if there is a utility reason or a reason as far as practicality why some of these things can't be done. I mean, I'm going to listen
Okay.
to them.
That's fair.
Okay, cool.
That's fair.
Can I ask, I wouldn't mind hearing Ricky Compton's opinion, because I believe you've had some input in this, or am I incorrect?
Does this make a hat trick?
The man who does it all. And
Welcome.
correct me if I'm wrong, but
Welcome, Mr. Compton.
I believe you've had some input in this and some experience in it, and just to get your thoughts, because, you know, you're the smartest man in the parish.
So the original ordinance that we were presented with had some serious flaws. And so at that point, I started researching the small wireless facility ordinance that Baton Rouge was working through, because they have a couple of legal cases that are still ongoing, as I understand it. They have not yet adopted their new ordinance because they're still working through it. The version that I worked on is based off of that ordinance, their revised version of that ordinance. And I thought that the version that I was working on provided more security for the council as well as the residents, that we were doing everything in our ability to protect them from something that is inevitable. The FCC has passed laws that basically say communities must pass ordinances that allow this. And so that's what I had been working on.
Is that this document?
The document I worked on was sent to Councilman Orgeron, and subsequent changes were made. And that's basically when I handed it off to Councilman Orgeron, and I said, this is your document now.
Are there changes that you would recommend in this that we don't have that, I'd like to be able to look at your, and I'll have time to do that in between, but I'd like to look at your suggestions. I respect you, I respect Councilman Ogeron, you know, you spend a lot more time on this than I do, quite honestly, and I respect your opinion on it. So I'd like to learn a little bit more about what your thoughts are on this. And this may not be the right time for, to go through it piece by piece, because I'm sure you don't have the information in front of you.
I don't.
Okay, and I'm sorry for putting you on the spot on it, but I'd like to learn more about this, and I'm sure that if we have some issues with it at the next council meeting, we can always send it back here, pass it off to the next council meeting.
Yes,
So in between that time, let's get together and you can educate me even more on this.
I can try.
Yeah, it'll be hard, won't it? Okay, I'm okay with it going to the next council meeting. I would like to maybe amend that it does not go on the consent agenda so that we can discuss
That's
it
fine.
further, because I
That's
think there's a
perfectly
lot to be
fine.
discussed.
So
Do we have a
have,
second for that amendment? Okay, thank you.
we got the second. So the motion before us is to move this matter to the full council, but keep it under general business, not on the consent agenda. Do we have any further discussion?
Is it going to come back here before that? Because I believe I was making a motion, just that we bring it back to utilities to approve and go straight to it. At the next
Okay.
utilities, so it goes to the next council meeting. And we can have a utilities meeting like.
You know what,
soon.
Councilman
2 weeks.
Robert, you're correct. You made the motion. Did anybody second Mr. Robert's motion to table this till the next utilities meeting? Is there a second? No seconds? Councilman Robert, that motion would die by lack of a second. And I think Councilman Waller.
What was the second on that we had just talked about? That was on mine. He had seconded mine.
No, I didn't second
I mean, Travis, you seconded mine.
No, he seconded mine.
All right, that's good. So, next council meeting.
Next council meeting.
Okay, is there any way we could do something for public to give us some comment, maybe have some type of public outreach between then and now? Because I've had several constituents reach out to me over this.
I guess we can invite them to the next meeting.
Now, I'm saying before the next meeting.
Mr. Quintmore.
Thank you, Chair. Maybe we can put something out to have people come to the next council meeting. Maybe we can put out something on the Ascension Parish as a press release, or just to say, hey, this item's coming up if you're interested, as just kind of a public announcement, if that would fit Mr. Robert's criteria. And then obviously, once those people show up and share their concerns, council could take action at that time.
Perfect, Mr.
Thank you.
Quintmore. I appreciate your suggestion. I think that's wise.
Okay, and just to keep in consideration, I'm not trying to stop this. It's something that we have, I mean, there's no timeline on us having to have these guidelines in place. There's nothing in place to stop us from having this. This gives us a great opportunity to set precedent and set guidelines that could further the quality of this parish for a long time.
Sure.
So
Agreed.
I'd like to make sure we spend some time on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Robert. We have a motion, we have a second. Any additional discussion? Any objection? Councilman Robert objects. Let's have a vote.
Okay, Travis Turner,
Just for clarification, if we say yes, we're going with
To move it to the full council,
Full
not on
council.
the consent agenda.
yes.
Aaron Lawler,
Yes, ma'am.
Alvin Thomas,
Yes.
Joel Robert,
No.
Yes.
4 yeas, 1 nay.
Okay. By vote, that motion passes. We'll have this matter before the full council at the next council meeting, and it will be on the general business, not on the consent agenda. Item C, approval to move forward with the USDA grant application providing clean drinking water to the customers of ACUD number 1 and PUA. Mr. Ken Dawson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Guess one question to start off, is this to approve for a budget amendment to fund the, is that what?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, well, the grant application is already in.
Correct.
And the grant application is fully submitted. And as was stated by your letter, from USDA June 17th, 2020, the funding of the project is still available. So there's nothing stopping there. And talking with the CAO, just if this committee, council, funds it, then we'll move forward. But again, the discussion was about the amount of money that it will take to service the debt. $375,000 that's required to service the debt. There's another 10% that's required by USDA as a debt service reserve. Then there's also $250,000 that's required for short-lived assets. And the short-lived assets portion has to be done for a certain period of time. I think it's 6 years. It has to be put aside. So that's fine, and it's ready to go. So it just needs the funding basis to be able to do so.
Does anybody have questions?
Yeah, I've got two questions.
We'll start left to right this time. Mr. Turner?
No questions right now.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes, one question I have is, what is the process to secure the $8 million for the project?
The $8 million, the total grant is like for about 17. One portion of it is a loan that basically the 375 is responsible for servicing the debt of that loan. Again, I said the application with USDA is in. I mean, they have no problem with it. They just making a decision from us. But we cannot use not one penny of the grant money unless all of our money is spent. And if we come in cheaper, say for instance, we reverse engineer, we're able to save money, we don't get that back. That doesn't automatically go into the grant. So keep in mind that we have to use all of our funding before anything of the grant would be used.
So $8 million of the money is free, right?
It's a grant, yeah.
That's
Yeah,
free?
roughly that, yes.
That's
yes,
free, okay.
Yes.
And what's the status on it?
It's approved. I mean, the
Got it.
USDA has the whole application and said the application is approved.
So what is it that we standing, what's the next move?
Mr. D.
CAO?
Yeah, he wanted to take it.
Just for the record, so from an administrative standpoint, we don't think it's prudent or something that we should do this year. I mean, our plan ideally would be to replace the meters to generate additional revenue. According to all the different equations, it could save us up to $150,000 to $200,000 a year. That would give us enough revenue next year to look at this loan again. That said, if you guys approve a budget amendment to take money from roads, recreation, or the Council on Aging to fund this, then we would definitely go forward. So what the federal government's waiting on us to tell them is, how are we going to pay for this? And we can't pay it with current revenues from PUA. So at some point, somebody needs to offer a budget amendment and tell us where to take it from and where to put it to fund this. The other problem, though, is based on our council's ruling that we can't subsidize. This loan is not only for PUA, but it's for ACD 1, which falls in the same category as ACDU 2, which means we can't use general fund dollars to subsidize it. So you're running into a bunch of problems. The best approach would be to slow down, let's improve those meters, let's generate more revenue, maybe make this thing self-supporting and just, self-generating over the year, and then look at it again next year. But that's
So
what
tell
we're.
me this, if we don't move, we're gonna lose the $8 million.
Now, it's
No.
a government low-interest loan, so they make money off of it. There's always going to be low-interest loans available. The other problem is we have a tendency in the past to pay engineers to do a lot of surveys and studies and analysis. And so I made it my point to read a lot of them, and I found one just the other day that shows that PUA's real problems are to the tune of about 10.8 million, not 23 million. And so there's even questions on how much money we need to spend to get this system back up and running. So once again, it's something that as an administration we'd prefer we just not move forward on the grant, replace the meters, generate more money, look at it again next year.
So I want to make perfectly clear that we will not lose the $8 million, is what I'm saying. The free money that we have.
No, it would not. According to USDA, you would not, and as John just said, it's a recurring loan. It's just like the SRF for sewer. It just, they keep replenishing the pot. So the money is there. And this is the letter that proves that came from USDA.
So my other question is the rate hikes, the two rate hikes we had to improve the pipes that we advised to the public that we was gonna do the pipes and change the meters with the two rate hikes, that won't be done. We won't even touch the pipes, is what you're saying. We just do the meters.
As Mr. Diaz said, the goal is to do the meters so that we can look at the increase of revenue. I wasn't, involved in, the initial calculations of it, but at this particular point, the goal is to try to put things in that's going to generate increased revenue. So at this point, the pipes are not included in what we're doing with the meters. To replace the pipes are not included.
Coach, real quick too as well, and kind of putting together our 60-day evaluation for you guys, we found this one memo that came from People's Water. And a couple things I just want to point out. One, very first sentence, People's Water was operating at a loss when the system was sold by the parish. It is still operating at a loss. It goes on to say that the Public Service Commission approved a 63% rate increase just to cover the cost to operate and maintain the facility. No capital outlay, just simply to and from what I understand, the actual increase that you guys voted on was 42%. So we're about 20% off on what the Public Service Commission has told us we need to make that thing functioning and self-operating. So as much as we talk about that rate increase, according to the Public Service Commission, and I think they are a lot more equipped to evaluate these systems and tell us what the rate should be than we are, we should have went up by 63%, and I can provide this memo to you. So I know that we went up and maybe made some promises that we can't fulfill, but it is what it is.
We definitely did that.
Yeah,
We definitely did that.
yes.
Mr. Diaz, Mr. Dawson, Coach, if you mind if I ask him?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm stepping on you, but I'm the chair, maybe I have the right to. You're giving us some good information regarding the practicality of going forward with this. Has anyone calculated what would happen if we increase those rates to the 63%? Because essentially what we did was we only increased them 2/3 of what we were permitted to do, or what we were suggested to do. Would that generate the funds necessary to get this issue back on track? And then in the future, we could always,
According to the Public Service Commission's memo, it would get us to the point where we can operate and maintain it at an 8.3% profit margin, because that's what they let public or private utilities operate at that margin. So to the degree that we could take that 8.3% profit and put it into some capital expenditures, some CapEx, I don't know, that's a question for somebody, for an engineer, I would imagine.
or finance, to give us that calculation as to what the expected revenue would be. Do you think you guys would be able to work on getting those answers for us
Yeah,
in the near future?
Yeah. Okay.
And just kind of generate the practicality of whether or not we can go forward with this kind of project? Because I agree with Coach that I hate to see us lose free money. But in the same token, if the money that they're saying is free isn't really free, then maybe we have to start recalculating and taking a look at other options that we may have in front of us.
And
Yeah.
and Chairman, I just want to speak on behalf of the administration. We agree with Coach that this needs to be done. This is an old, outdated system. But when you look at all the problems we're having with all our utility systems, now's not the time.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
The,
Any other questions, Coach?
yeah, well, seems like the more we delay, the more the cost gonna be for the people, Seems as though, the more we delay, the more cost we're gonna have toward the people.
maybe, maybe not. Maybe we hire an outside firm to evaluate which one of these engineering reports is most accurate. One of them's telling us it's $23 million fix, and the other one's saying $10.8 million. I'm not qualified to tell you which one's right and which one's wrong. So maybe waiting would, may save us some money.
And maybe it may cost
And maybe it
people
will
of
cost.
the parish, people on the West Bank, cost. We taken upon something from the previous administration, and I think I'm not sure what exactly we need to get this thing done. We need it done for sure. The pipes is outdated, the meter's outdated, and, people paying the cost. They had 2 increases already, and it seemed as though it's, to me, the more you delay, the more the cost gonna go up on the cost up on the people, on their water bill. And I've experienced, just here lately, have some of the constituents, they'll pay 40 one month, and the next month, their bill is $100-something. And, I'm not, I'm having those calls, and it's very frustrating. We need to get it fixed.
Yes, sir, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Please, sir.
And, Councilman Thomas, I did call that person that we talked about the other day in dealing with, one other thing that was done, once the water was purchased, the goal was to initially go up 30%. Okay, the very next year to go up 30%, or the very opportunity to go up 30%. Now, if we look at the 30% and even the numbers that Mr. Diaz was talking about, if we go up to 30% then, and then to go forward and do the USDA thing, you're talking about an increase that would get pretty close to the 60-some-odd%. Now, the report that was done, the 10-point-something million Mr. Diaz referred to, talked about a lot of the details of what needs to be replaced. And it was inclusive of a lot of things in the line. So I agree with going back and looking at it and see, what's the proper direction. But however, we are going to move forward with the meters. I mean, that's something that Mr. Diaz has talked about and he wants to go ahead and get done. So we're moving forward with the meters. We're doing it as cheaply and as responsibly as possible. Sometimes the actual body of the meters can be replaced with the electronics that allow it to operate as a brand-new Neptune meter. And we're looking at that now, and we're doing that inventory, and we're getting those replaced. So instead of paying $300 for a replaced meter, we may be able to get it replaced for about $90. So that's what we're looking into.
And let me, refresh me, make sure I'm correct on this. The way the USDA loan grant operates, it's a $9 million loan and an $8 million grant.
Yes.
And so if this project comes in at 10 or 11 million dollars, we have to borrow the 9 first before we get to touch any of the free money.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Again,
Thank you.
always be careful when the government's offering you something for free.
I understand.
Wait, hold on, sir. We may have some other questions
Oh,
down,
sorry.
down forward. Mr. Lawler?
No, Mr. Diaz answered most of my questions, most of my concerns.
Okay.
Did a good job.
And Councilman Robert?
I too share a lot of the concerns that Coach has on the West Bank for this water. And I've talked to many of my constituents over there campaigning, and since then, and we have inherited a mess, without a doubt.
All right.
Now, I've told them the same thing I'm gonna tell you. We're gonna fix the mess, okay? Now, right now, the way that I see the situation, and we've talked about this, if you look, I believe we've talked about this before, right, Mr.
Yes.
Dawson?
Yes, sir.
Whenever you look back and you take these meters, if you take all of the meters and you fix them, that gives us some type of scope, some type of scale.
Yes.
Instead of looking at this $8 million, and instead of looking at how we can spend $9 million like Chairman Ogeron was saying, why don't we take all of our resources and look to sell this entity? Sell People's Water, sell ACUD #1, all of it. Myself and Mr. Dawson have sat down before and talked about this whole idea, and the feasibility of it. And what I've said then is the same thing I'll say now. I feel like if we allow the private sector to take this and to roll with it, in the time it takes us to save possibly $8 million, even though it might be a $15 million project, and we really only save $6 million, and we waste the rest of it. I think they could have done a lot more, a lot quicker, and gotten results a lot quicker. As far as the $100 bill you get here and there from people, I get the same thing. Sometimes people will get a ridiculous water bill, and it doesn't make sense. And there's really nothing you can tell them because we can't change the bill. unless there was a mistake, which, sometimes there is, but sometimes there isn't, because we don't have the necessary equipment to be able to see what's really happening. So by doing these meters, I feel like we're postponing, not stopping this work. And let's say after we do the meters, we have a package of what we have. We have something that we can realistically get some type of estimated value on, and look at saying, hey, people, give us an offer. We want to give you water, we want to give you sewer on the West Bank. Who can do it quickest, who can do it best, and see what happens. And if nothing happens, let's move forward next year on this when we have some more money and we have more of a sight on it. And I feel like saying that I'm comfortable with getting this done, because these meters have to be done before anything's done in it. Has to. And that's going to take until next year before we're at the point to do the work anyways, right?
Yeah, we're going to move forward with a bunch for using some people to install the meters, but the larger project is going to take some more effort.
Now, the larger project, let's say we do install these meters, and let's say we do continue doing engineering work and different work as of now. Can we use this stuff that we're doing now and that we've done retro and put it in the USDA package for counting toward money we've spent toward the project to access the 8 million?
I don't think you can, okay? I really don't think, the money that you're already spending now, you can't attach it to the package later, because they look very closely at the scope of the package, and that's what they judge the work on, about what's submitted in the preliminary engineering report that's submitted to them.
Mr.
Hold on, Coach.
Yeah.
Councilman Turner had a
Okay.
question.
Just kind of piggyback off of Joel's statement. I don't recall when we purchased it that it had too many people trying to buy people's water. So I don't know if that's going to be a viable option there. I just don't recall anybody else trying to purchase
I've
besides the
actually heard
parish.
some interest. I've had some people reach out and actually say, look, I've heard some people on the street saying they'd be interested in buying people's water. I'm talking about reputable companies.
Okay. I just know when we,
And if it's not there, let's move forward and continue doing what we're doing, and it'll give us time to analyze and assess our, our property.
actually, I just don't recall, I mean, maybe Mr. Dawson can correct me, that when it was purchased,
And you're right, I mean.
that there was anybody else trying to purchase it as well.
Right, I think the only people that were trying to look at it in the city of Donaldsonville, it was 2 municipalities, but because there wasn't enough revenue there. But other than the 2 governmental entities, the parish and the city of Donaldsonville, there was not any other private entity at that time looking at it. Maybe change now, but it was then.
All right,
Coach Thomas?
let's make it perfectly clear. We inherit this situation, we need to fix it, and we need to serve our own people. Because I wouldn't want to sell my house and then come back and want to rent it. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. I don't want to sell my house and then got to come back and rent. So this is something we inherited, we need to fix it and do the best we can with what we have and move forward. I mean, we need to serve our people, and we have a product, water, that each and every person needs. And we need to just try to fix it. I mean, we inherit what we have here. Right now, we're working with, we got a
Sure.
grant that's $8 million on the table. We need to figure out a way to fix it
Sir,
and to serve our people.
yes, sir.
I would think everybody would agree with that.
Yeah. I think everyone concurs with you, Coach.
Yeah.
It's just the complications of trying to figure out how to do it at this point.
So from my understanding, we're going to move forward with looking at the meter replacement. We're going to continue to give you reports on that. I would talk with Mr. Diaz and work out the details of how we, have expand the program. But also I want to let you know something. As far as water quality, we just got a report from the state, which we monitor it all the time, to look at copper levels and lead. And if you know the situation with lead, if you remember what happened in
Flint.
Michigan, in Flint, it's not that good. Our numbers were, very, very low compared. I think it was 13 ppb it had to be. We were at like 0.3. So, even though we have some issues, with some of the infrastructure, and you're talking about galvanized, you're talking about very old pipe, still, the water quality is very good, and this was a state report. And what I'll do, I'll copy that and email that to all of you so that you can take a look at it, because I'm kind of proud of that achievement.
Okay. Well, right now, the matter on the agenda is the moving this process forward. We've had a good 30, 45 minutes of discussion on it. From the very beginning, I don't believe we got a motion. Is that correct? So at this point, following all this preliminary discussion, is there a motion on the floor to move this matter forward to the full council?
Motion.
Is there a motion? Is there anyone that's going to second that motion to move it to the full council?
I'll second it.
Okay. We've got a motion from Mr. Thomas, a second from Mr. Lawler, from Mr. Robert.
Do we know how much?
Well, point of order, what did we just move?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering too.
Did we just move the approval of a grant without a funding mechanism? Then
No.
you didn't.
The purpose of this is to move this matter to the council, to do a budget. We're going to have to do a budget amendment at some point to address whether or not we can finance the loan aspect so that we can access the grant access. Is that,
That's right.
that's what we have before us. Can we move this forward?
I'll withdraw my second. It's a little more complicated than I thought.
Okay,
At some point, you're going to have to remove ACDU 1 from this.
Yeah, I'll withdraw my second.
exactly. So with that being the case, you withdrawing your second, Councilman Robert?
That's the case.
Okay. So we got a motion from Mr. Thomas. Anybody else seconds? Okay.
Second.
Well, second by Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Okay. So I got a motion by Coach Thomas, a second by Mr. Turner. Any further discussion? Any objections? Mr. Lawler's
I
objection?
believe it's premature at this time.
Okay. So we got to take a roll call vote.
Okay. Vice Chair Travis Turner,
Yes.
Joel Robert. Joel.
I'll go yes.
Alvin Thomas.
Yes.
Aaron Lawler.
No.
Corey Ogeron.
Yeah,
That was 4 yeas and 1 nay.
thank you. Okay, that item passes. Item D, hopefully will not be as long of a conversation because I know Mr. Brett Hughes doesn't like to speak that much. Update from Hughes Insurance on the policies covering equipment and property of ACUD number 1, ACUD number 2. Welcome to our meeting, Mr. Hughes. It's always a pleasure seeing you.
Appreciate the welcome, and I guess I'm a lot like my dad, but I don't like to speak near as much as he does.
Who does?
Exactly, but I do appreciate the opportunity to come tonight. You should have in front of you a white
Yes, sir.
folder, Hughes Insurance folder. It's got 2 pieces of information in it, the one on the left in the left pocket. That's strictly for information purposes, just to let you know at our office who you can contact if you have any questions on anything to do with any of the insurance that we have for the parish. And then the right side of the folder is actually a spreadsheet. That's where we're going to spend most of the time. Chairman Orgeron is correct. It's going to be a fairly short presentation unless you guys have a lot of questions, and if so, then it could be even longer. But as far as my part of it, it's just going to be to review that spreadsheet. Kind of where we are or how we got here tonight was Chairman Orgeron had asked us to provide you guys a spreadsheet or some information to the committee on what we have as far as insured assets for ACUD 1 and ACUD 2. I will preface my comments before we get into the spreadsheet. Mr. Tommy Marchand was going to try to have today a list of some assets for ACUD 1 that we do not currently have on the list. He'll have that information tomorrow. I'll email that to you, kind of like I was telling you before the meeting.
Certainly.
List a couple of vehicles and a few pieces of equipment that you don't have in front of you on this spreadsheet here. We'll go over the spreadsheet fairly quickly, and then after that, I'll take any questions you may have. This is the list of the fixed assets. Now, keep in mind, these are the ones that we have coverage on from an insurance standpoint. I can't guarantee you that it's all the ones that you have. That would be something that the administration can provide if some of this stuff could possibly be self-insured or just not listed on the spreadsheet. But as far as coverages, if you look at the top of the spreadsheet on the left side, you'll see where it has equipment. That's a list of equipment that we have currently covered on the equipment policy for the parish as far as both of those utility districts. I'm not going to go down each one with you, obviously, because that would take too much time, but if you have any questions, let me know at the end. The next part of the spreadsheet is the sewer systems and the other infrastructure that we have. Keep in mind, most of these, or the majority of them, from a pollution liability standpoint, were added back in March of this year, because we'd had just the one location covered prior to that. So a lot of these are covered from a pollution liability standpoint. When you look at the column that has the acquired cost, which is kind of toward the middle left side of the page, especially for the sewer system and other infrastructure columns, that doesn't mean we have that particular sewer system in a subdivision insured for that amount. That's just what it costs the parish to acquire it. The majority of that is located in the ground. As far as the concrete and things like that, not necessarily, I don't think anyway, for you to actually insure that portion of it. The part that is above the ground, some of the pumps and things like that, those are what's covered on the equipment breakdown policy, which is a total, just so you guys know, of $50 million. That's the total limit for the TIV for the parish on the equipment breakdown. And then on the property portion of the parish, another number for you just to kind of have on the top of your head is $130 million as far as property coverage, total insured value. So that's the list of the sewer systems. It includes, or some things that's not listed on that, because keep it in mind, this was for fixed assets, but just so you know, from a pollution liability standpoint, it's not owned by ACUD 1 or 2, but storage tanks that we have in the ground at Church Point, storage tanks that we have in the ground at the pumping stations, all of those, like for diesel and gas and all of that is covered on the pollution liability policy as well.
Okay.
If you flip to the next page, toward the bottom, it's the vehicles, and there's 8 to 10 or so listed there. Those are the fixed assets, the vehicles that are owned by ACUD 2. And then just to highlight a couple of the, total amounts. Underneath the equipment, you're looking at about $204,000 for page 1. On the yellow section, underneath the sewer systems, you have $21,654,000 approximately, as far as the total acquired cost there. Second page, the water systems, you're looking at about $762,000 in value, and then on the vehicles, a total of $677,000 in value. Now, there are 8 sites from a pollution standpoint that are not listed because we literally just added them today. And just how that process works, just so you know, Mr. Tommy Marchand, he is notified by someone in finance whenever the acquisition comes through. He fills out a form that we have, sends that to our office to say, okay, we've acquired this subdivision's sewer system, treatment system. We need to add it to our pollution liability policy. We added at that point. Well, we had 4 at the end of last week, and then we had 4 more that were added today for a total of 8 that's been added to that policy. That spreadsheet just doesn't update that yet because my staff is good, but they didn't get that done today. Any questions on any of that? It was strictly kind of an overview for you tonight, just so you have an idea of what we have. Any questions, comments, concerns?
Mr. Robert?
I did have a question, and I think, I do understand you're just showing fixed assets and whatnot here, but do we have any type of insurance on the operation side aspect of utilities company?
Operations meaning exactly
Meaning
what?
legal, meaning all that type of stuff, the actual operating of the company.
The general liability portion of it, that's covered on the general liability policy that we have, because it's an asset that the parish owns.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, as far as lawsuits and things like that, yeah, cost of defense, that's all built into the general liability policy. Keep in mind, we do have a self-insured retention limit for the general liability for the property but yeah, that's part of that policy.
Okay. And these are just some things that, I'd like to point out. Just costs that we incur with these types of utilities. I mean, they're all over.
Thank you, Mr. Robert. Mr. Lawler?
I have no questions.
Mr. Thomas?
No question.
Mr. Turner?
Oh, the insurance information looks good.
Appreciate that, Mr. Turner.
No problem.
Mr. Hughes,
Yes, sir.
I brought you here.
I got you.
You think that's qualified? To make that?
First off, again, genuinely, thank you for this list of this list. I've been looking for this for a while now, and getting it from your office really helps out a lot.
Well, I will say, the administration is the one who provided a lot of that to us. You know,
Sure,
'cause,
of course.
yeah,
I
so
don't take
it's
it.
a good joint effort for sure.
Yeah, I don't think for one second you were out there in your pickup truck driving
Was
around
not.
saying, is this treatment facility ours or someone else's?
Right.
So I'm pretty sure you got that information from somebody.
Tommy does a really good job of keeping
Yeah.
up with that.
Corey, I did have one question.
I'm in the middle of my question. Thank you. General liability. We have a pollution liability.
Correct.
We have replacement for any of the pumps,
That's
Any-
part of the equipment breakdown policy.
so equipment breakdown policy. So we have those three. What else, what other coverages do we have?
As far as just overall coverages for the
Sure.
parish in general, and I
Well,
just talked,
for the utilities? Or is that
Equipment.
is that in the umbrella for the entire parish?
it is,
what
yes.
this-
We
oh,
we don't
okay.
have a separate policy that's covering just the assets of
Okay.
either one of these districts. It's all underneath the umbrella of the parish.
Okay.
What this spreadsheet did is just help break out, so you guys would have in front of you kind of what some of those fixed assets are. They're not covered on a separate policy. We don't have a separate policy covering the equipment, let's say,
Sure.
for just this. It's all underneath.
So it's all,
encompassed.
it's all under the general liability policy for Ascension Parish?
Correct.
And it's not broken out separately for ACUD 1, ACUD 2?
Not from
Or
an
balance.
insurance standpoint.
Okay.
Administration, finance probably keeps track of that type of stuff, but from our need, it's not
Okay.
necessary for us to actually have that information. That's the reason it took a little longer to get this spreadsheet than what we had hoped.
Great. I'm gonna bring one of your partners up here. Mr. Dawson, if you mind, come up here for a second, please. Mr. Dawson, were you provided this list, one of these white folders from Mr. Hughes?
No.
Okay.
Look, I actually have an extra one right
You
here.
have an extra one?
We got a bunch of them.
Fantastic. Homework for you, Mr. Dawson, or for your department, I should say. If you guys could, look through this list, and let's see if there's any other items that we need to add to it, so that we can make sure that it's a full and complete list. One of the things that Mr. Hughes just mentioned was the fact that we had 4 subdivisions that were added last week, and 4 subdivisions that were added this week. And I'm correct me if I'm wrong, but we haven't added 8 new subdivisions to our system in the last 5 days. I have a feeling that those were ones that should have been on the list way back, and we just kind of didn't get it done timely.
Yes. Well, Tommy's the one who sent it to us, and
Yeah.
I think
So-
Amanda or Dawn possibly are the ones who maybe get that information to him, but,
But
yeah.
we have a spreadsheet that
Good deal.
details every system that we have. We have a spreadsheet that details where in the process it is of being turned over, because before a system is actually put to a point that it goes over to finance to say that it has not become our asset, we have to inspect it and we have to do that. So our
So-
spreadsheet will be very detailed. Young lady you see sitting right there is the one that's the keeper of the spreadsheet.
Hey, listen, if Ashley's in charge, I know we're in a good
That's
spot.
Tiffany.
Tiffany, I'm sorry, Tiffany. Well, you know, even with Tiffany, we're in an okay spot if it's Tiffany.
We're in very okay spot.
Great spot if it's Ashley.
Absolutely, very okay.
Sorry about that, Tiff. I know I'm going to hear it tomorrow.
I'll give you a call.
But in any event, I want to just make sure that we don't miss out on any coverage.
So I said, I'm sorry.
I want to make sure that we don't miss out on coverage if we're not having items listed.
In fact, Gavin and I were just talking about that and making sure we compare lists. We were texting each other. So.
Good, good deal.
And look, and the good thing is, obviously, we don't want it to slip through the cracks, but in situations like that, as far as adding some of these sewer systems and subdivisions and things, it's not gonna be a problem if something happens and all of a sudden we have a claim on one and say, hey, you don't have it listed from a standpoint of, yeah, but the parish took it over and it just hadn't been communicated to us yet. As long as we can prove that you guys have it at that point, then we would be fine.
Well, I appreciate that, but we have an insurance defense attorney up here
I
on his
understand.
dais.
I know.
And I understand that through he's taking notes over there, trying to figure out how to
I
beat
saw
us.
him writing
Yeah.
over there, taking notes, and I'm sure he's gonna probably call me and say, no, wait, what did you say?
No, you're good on that.
Councilman Turner had a question for you too, Mr. Hughes.
No, I just had a question regarding the liability insurance that we have on the vehicles. Just want to make sure we don't have any type of policy on those vehicles, do we?
Correct.
We don't.
Do not, yeah.
Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. And I'm saying that. I'm 99% sure of that. I will double check to make sure, but I'm almost positive we do not, that was signed to exclude the UM coverage, which is very standard. So,
And I just wanted to make sure, because it kind of defeats the purpose to have a UM on a employee vehicle. We're going to
Correct.
have workers' comp as well.
yep.
Correct. Good deal. That was all, Mr. Hughes. No one else have any other questions? I want to thank you for spending your evening with us.
No problem. Enjoyed it. I appreciate the time, and you guys know how you can reach me if you ever have any questions on anything at all.
Certainly. We got a
Thank
fold,
you.
we got a folder and a business card.
Exactly. Yeah, I like to give them out. I don't do it often.
Thank you, sir. Item E, update on negotiations with Ascension Sewer NWI. I see we have Mr. David Fleshman.
Good evening.
Counselor, how are you this evening?
Doing all right? How are y'all?
Feeling better?
Feeling much better. Thank you for
Good.
asking.
God is great. Glad to hear it.
So, to update the committee on the current status of the negotiations, as you will recall from the council meeting last September 17th, we were in the process of preparing the parish's response to the draft CEA that NWI provided to the parish. We had several long meetings starting the next morning after the council meeting with the working group. We met several times through the next week with the deadline of submitting our response to NWI by Friday, September 25th, which we did. When we submitted that, it was with the understanding that we would receive within a week, by the next Friday, a response from NWI, comments, and to then, at that point, get into the room and continue moving the ball down the field. We have not yet received anything back from NWI. It's our understanding that they have requested some additional time. It was our appreciation that today was the date that they were going to submit something, but we have not received it as of the last few minutes checking my email. So currently, the status is we are waiting on NWI's response, and hopefully at that stage, get in the room with NWI, figure out where we're in agreement, where we're not, and keep moving forward. Thank you.
Okay. Councilman Turner, any questions?
No.
Councilman Thomas?
No, sir.
Councilman Lawler?
No, it's good to have you back healthy, though.
Thank you.
Councilman Robert?
I was just wondering why you didn't start from this side this time.
Because
No questions, sir.
You good, Joe.
what was that, Councilman Turner? Oh, he said, looks before smarts. That's why we started this side first.
Be nice, did it? Cool.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you coming and spending the evening with us. I hope that we continue to move forward with conscientious negotiations, considering all of the obstacles and all of the conditions that we're facing. That we all realize that there's a strong emphasis on getting this deal done.
Understood. Thank you.
Failure is not an option in this matter.
Understood.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you
Appreciate
all.
it.
Appreciate it.
Item F, update on the ITU inspection program. President Quintmont.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members of the Utilities Committee. Due to the ongoing negotiations with Ascension Sewer / NWI, I'm asking that the committee, as well as the chairman, delay this at this time to continue those negotiations.
One quick question for you, sir. And again, I know we had talked. Is this ITU inspection program, is that going to be, are we considering moving that along with the negotiations with Ascension Sewer, or are we intending on keeping that in-house ourselves? Or have we made that decision yet?
We have not made that decision at this time.
Fantastic, sir. I just wanted to confirm that.
Sure thing.
Appreciate your response.
Thank you.
Items G and H have been,
I think we have to.
oh, I'm sorry. Coach Thomas, you got a question for
Yeah,
the president?
just want to thank Mr. President. Good to hear from you. Not that I don't like hearing from Mr. Mr. John.
It's good to hear from
but,
you, Coach Tom.
It's good to hear from you. Thank you very much.
Okay, Coach.
Be good now, Coach.
Yeah, I will.
We're gonna get you guys playing jacks pretty soon, I know that. Item I, approval of SCADA contract with ICE Sales and Services, SCADA Support, Service and Maintenance Project Number PUA 19-001 for an extension of time. Mr. Dawson, not that I don't like seeing you, but I was informed that, Mr. Fleming was gonna be here
Yeah, well,
to handle this one.
Yeah, Mr. Fleming is feeling a little ill tonight,
Okay,
so he couldn't make it. So I'm just I'm gonna check on him tomorrow, making sure that he's okay.
so we got second string leading us on
Yes,
this.
I believe I'm the support team.
Okay, good deal.
But I just want to, SCADA, it's supervisory control data acquisition is what we use in the plants to trying to control the system, give information to the operators on how things are running in the plant. This is strictly for the plant. ICE is the provider of SCADA for only the plant. Now, we have SCADA also in the wastewater system, but this is just for the plant. This is an extension of time only. They're doing a great job for us, and the operators really require this to know how the systems are performing and what action they need to take in case there's some type of an alarm.
I'll make a motion.
Motion.
Second.
I have a second from Mr. Thomas. Any further discussion or questions? Any objections? Motion passes. We're approving it. We're moving it to the full council.
Thank you, sir.
Item 7.
Motion.
Second.
Motion to adjourn.
To adjourn, okay. Just making sure. I didn't think you guys wanted to keep going. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for attending.